Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with breakups, relationships, and situationships. And today we're going to get into going to a psychic for information after your breakup. Does it work? Great question. I've had this come up a lot over the years with coaching different clients. I've been to psychics in my life. Surprise, surprise. I've had good experiences and bad experiences. I'm going to unpack that today. And my own belief about it, which has evolved and changed over the years. Which, if you look at your life, you should be evolving with new information, new knowledge, new thoughts. And so when you get into a breakup, a situationship, or you're a little lost in your relationship, a lot of times you're looking for fucking answers, right? Sounds right. And in these situations, when you're looking for answers, wouldn't it be nice if there's a psychic out there that could just tell you everything? They could just tell you all the moves to make. And really what's interesting about when I say that, a lot of times people are going to psychics with one question. Is she coming back? People come to me with more of the question of, how do I go about it? Right? What do you think he or she is thinking? Now, if it's really a psychic, you kind of think, well, they should have all the answers, right? Who knows? So I'm going to break that down today. And you have to ask yourself, what do you want them to say? Why are you really going to a psychic right now? Is this something you've believed in the past? Or is this something that's just, well, I'll try this. I've tried everything else. And I've had people tell me that. Well, I've tried everything else. Just want to move up the mic a little bit there. And number one, there's good psychics and bad psychics. There's good dentists and bad dentists. There's good people and bad people, right? So if you plan on going to 5 psychics, you're probably going to get entangled in various answers and possibilities and get more confused. So my suggestion is, if you go this route and you have some curiosity, or you believe in parapsychology, or you believe there's a possibility that a psychic could help you, I'd highly recommend that that's a psychic or that you've been to before, or that someone's recommended to you. I wouldn't go to 5 or 6 different ones. Just the same reason I suggest to people, if you pick a coach or a therapist, you should maybe go to 3 and then pick one to stick with that resonates and works with you well. Okay? Because if you get information, they're all going to give you a little bit different information, and then it's the paradox of choice, and then you're spun and you can't make decisions. That's a bad situation to be in, right? So there's good ones and there's bad ones. And when you recognize in the middle of a session that maybe they're giving information, shooting from the hip. I've had this before years back, where an individual, you could just tell he was guessing. And even when he guessed, he was like, oh, I knew it. It's like, no, you're wrong. You got it wrong on that one. And like I said, I'm going to unpack and after I get done with these points, my experiences post-breakup going to quote-unquote card readers or psychics or what have you. Anyone that finds that wrong or, a card reader and a psychic are different, whatever. Okay, it's different for different people. Number 2, are you rejecting things they are saying? So let's say you go there, you're like, all right, I'm curious about this. They say something to you and you go, no way. Like that's not going to happen. I would advise you after the session to make note of what you're rejecting. Is that just something you don't want to believe? Or is that something that is really proving that psychic doesn't have a grasp on the situation, or they're in another stratosphere? Okay. So that's something to think about before you go into the session. If you reject something, where you're like, well, and you can almost feel it. You're like, right? I've been doing hypnosis for years, and I've been on the hypnotee and the hypnotist. And there's moments where people will say something, and even when you're in a trance state, if you don't agree or it doesn't resonate, you'll go like this. You'll feel it. It doesn't vibe. It doesn't go with it. And so if you're going to a psychic, right, and you're rejecting something, is it because you don't like it? Because it doesn't vibe. They're two different things. Number 3, how did you find them? How did you find this psychic? Did you just find them off the internet, or did you find it through a friend? That'd be a question to ask. Where are you getting this from? If it's just a desperate stab in the dark of, well, I'll try this, I would recommend no. Okay, you'd be better off hiring a coach or a therapist to go through your situation and unpack it. If you had a friend or a family member that recommends someone that worked well for them, then maybe go for it. Going on the internet and just picking some random, I think that's a different case. Number 4, does their info resonate with you? So when they're doing the reading, if that's what they call it, is it resonating with you? Do you feel like this is going somewhere in the right direction? That's important. Number 5, what does your intuition say? Okay, so what do you like before you even go to the psychic and have a session? What's your intuition telling you about the breakup? Because really, that is a form of being a psychic, your intuition that you believe in. Now, I always tell clients, your boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, husband, wife, you know them better than I do. And that's why I always tell people to write out your story so you can comb through your narrative. Okay, because you have a narrative or a story of what went down, and that's really what your unique belief is about what it is. But deep down inside, someone can say, yeah, she's not coming back. Even if you want her back, but the reality is, knowing her, knowing him, knowing their character, knowing them front and back, knowing how they deal with certain things, incidents, if they're a closed off person, if they're a person that cuts people off. What do I mean by that? I'm not talking about the freeway. I'm saying that if they have a friend or family member and they chose to freeze that family member out because they had a dispute, there's a good chance during a breakup they'll do the same thing to you. Okay, so your intuition on your breakup is much stronger than a random mediocre psychic. Now, if you get someone out there that is really good, has some perspective, they still probably aren't going to have as much information or intuition as you do because you've been with that person. Now, they might have an insight that's just, what's that? I'd also encourage people out there, if you're going to go this route, to definitely record your dreams post breakup. And this is something I don't see talked about a lot, but a lot of people have some kind of wild, interesting, metaphorical dreams post breakup. A way to record that is just as soon as you wake up, have a journal or your phone ready and write some notes about that. And then bring that to the psychic or your coach or your therapist to kind of comb through it and unpack it. But your intuition, before you even go to that session, is probably going to tell you a lot, as long as it's not jaded by the idea of just what you want to believe. And that was my next question. What do you want to believe? Okay, what do you really want to believe? And be honest. Okay, what there's two things. Post breakup, post situationship, you sometimes get into this mode of complaining or blaming or taking too much responsibility where you blame yourself. There's all kinds of things that go along. Sometimes you don't stop and ask yourself some specific, clean, clear questions that might help you redirect the ship to where you want to go. And what I want to say about that is that one of the questions is, what do you want now? Okay, so you want them back. And if you want them back, do you want them back to marry them? Do you want them back for the next month? Do you want to work on things? Do you want to fix the problems? Whatever. People don't even know what they want. I find a lot of times they're just in this spin cycle, post-breakup of feelings and emotions, sadness, loneliness, abandonment. But they don't really stop and take a breath and go, what do I want here? Do I even want to be in this relationship? Do I believe it can work? That's a big one. Now, sometimes you want to believe like, well, there's something out there that if I do it, I'll get them back or they'll come back. There's a secret code. There's a secret book that has all the steps. What you'll find with breakups and relationships is, unfortunately, for people that are looking for that route, is you'll find maybe a broad list of things like no contact, which basically just means don't talk to them anymore, negotiations are off. Or you'll find something like, maybe leave a clever line on Instagram and they'll get their attention. You'll have some ideas, but nothing's going to technically work in every different relationship because the variables are different, right? Your relationship is extremely unique because you are two different human beings. And that's where going to a psychic where your partner's not there, if the person's going to read you and read the situation, it would be better if your partner were there with you, if you were to believe that the psychic's going to come with some good information. But if you come away from that session and some of the things that they said you don't want to believe, that's something to go to town on and unpack in a journal or a coaching session. Why am I having trouble rejecting everything they're saying? Okay. So understanding what you want to believe. And here's an interesting thing. Okay. A really interesting thing is a lot of times people want to believe or want their ex to come back or to get back together, but they actually don't believe it's going to happen. See how that's contradicting, and that really leaves people in a bad situation because they're hoping, wishing for a miracle, but deep down inside, they know that this situation is probably not coming back or their partner's not all back in. And you can look at a simple situation from the outside where someone's girlfriend has left them, has told them they're done, and they're seeing someone else, and that person is still trying to pursue them. That's not a very good handle on the reality of the situation. And so if you go to a psychic hoping and wishing, there's plenty out there that will go, well, come back to me for another week. Let's talk about this for another week. Let's see some other things. And I have a client this last month that was saying, oh, I've gone to multiple psychics, and he's laughing about it. He's laughing about it as he's talking. This one said this, and you can tell he doesn't fully believe any of them. It's just a reach. It's interesting. And if you have the resources, the money to pay for someone, it could be a curious question and you can go for it. The problem is when you go to too many different people, whether that's psychics, coaches, therapists, friends, family, is you're poisoning good information with bad information. And so at some point you gotta bet on yourself in choosing someone to work with that's more regular, because when you go out there and get so much information, it's hard to pick direction, and you're also not being honest with your own intuition and what you already know, because you know the most about the situation. It's like if there was a scene of a crime and you were a witness. Let's say you weren't a part of the crime, but you were a direct witness. You were someone that had a front row seat to this crime. Happened on the streets, and it was late at night, but you were there. You were on a park bench at the street light where it all went down, and you could see everything. And your feelings weren't directly connected. You're just a spectator. And then you watch when the police come and the guy that robbed the woman, or the woman that robbed the guy possibly, at gunpoint, and maybe there was some kind of physical attack. And you hear their story and they're lying. And then you hear the other person's story and they're exaggerating. But what you saw is completely different. That's how it always is, folks. That's how it always is. Also in breakups, and this is why I always tell people, write your story, send it in to writemac.com, because your feelings and emotions are involved and you're twisting things in a different way. And that's okay. That's reality for a lot of people. But that individual that was spectating on that crime, they're going to have a totally different perspective. Now, if you went around to people that weren't there, psychics or not psychics or friends or family, and ask their opinion, they're just going to go on what they know of their own life experiences that they can relate to that situation. And so you have by far the best knowledge of the situation. And so if you sit in a quiet place in a calm state and really ask yourself some good questions, or you get one friend, family member, coach, therapist out there that sits and listens to you, asks you some good questions, there'll be a lot revealed in those conversations, a lot of realizations. And I don't have a problem with psychics. In fact, I believe there's some good psychics out there. And I don't have one to plug or a link to go to or anything like that. But I do believe that there's some out there. I do believe that there's some that, they're stretching it. Okay. They're winging it. Everyone, I believe, has moments, has the ability that you get this intuition of knowing something you don't know how you know. And we've all had it. Right? Okay. And I believe you look at your situation, a lot of times you just got to ask yourself, am I going to this psychic to get an answer to a question I already know? I'm hoping someone else will tell me a different answer, because it can't be this answer. It can't be that, yeah, she's never coming back. It can't be that she's been hooking up with this guy that she's probably going to marry. And you know what I'm saying? You got to ask, why are you going that route? Right? Because if you are there, you kind of know everything, how it laid out. Now, if you've seen multiple psychics with the same questions, that's really simple for me to tell you, you don't like the answers. You don't believe in the answers. And now you're just looking for more information. Now, this is an interesting thing. What's up, Skinner? This is an interesting thing, is that you can get addicted to seeking information. So what will happen is, if you have enough time on your hands and you don't have a lot of things going on in your life outside of your work, you don't have a lot of extracurricular activities, you can easily get funneled into YouTube, Google, and just searching out information on questions about your breakup, right? People have done that. And then psychics could be one of them. But what is it? Is it actually making a difference, or is it actually making useful clarity arise? It's like one of the things I always tell people: if you don't find our session useful and helpful in talking about your breakup and unpacking everything, I'll give you your money back. That's the aim. How can we get some useful information, some useful things that you weren't thinking about before, some new angles, some new clarity? The idea that you're going to get a premonition or oh yeah, they're coming back in 5 days. Is it possible? I believe it is. I believe there's probably some psychics out there that could drop that card. I don't think they're as plentiful as you think. And I think it's more difficult for that to happen when you got two different people and the person that you're asking about isn't even there. Right? So this just comes up a lot. And I think that when you look at it, you have a little bit more power than you think in your intuition. And if you look at your own life, there's been moments where you kind of discounted a thought or an intuitive moment or something that came up, and you didn't act on it. And you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of, you don't consider yourself a psychic, but sometimes your intuition is pretty clean and clear. Intuition works better without trying for an outcome when it just floats to the surface. So when people do this, they really have to think about that. Why am I going to the psychic, and am I going to multiple ones trying to get different answers? And I've seen that with coaches too. I've had clients that they come to you and they talk to 5 other coaches, and that's totally fine. but it doesn't help them more. It actually puts them in different directions. And eventually from those 5 coaches, they pick 2 or 1. They stick with that person and they ride on that. If they keep going to the 5, they're going to get a little bit. Well, they said this. At some point, whatever information or suggestion you're getting made, you have to use your own intuition to say, does this resonate with me? Does this feel right? Or am I just reaching? I've had conversations with people that are card readers that I thought, this person's winging it. They're kind of guessing, trying. I've had conversations with spiritual healers where I'm like, wow, this is on. And they don't, if there was psychics out there that could give you specific information, won't we all be winning the lotto? Wouldn't that be the number one question? Because I think sometimes if you're really going to look deeper into some of this stuff, even though the breakup hurts and is bad, sometimes it's just what the doctor ordered. It's just what you need. Just talking to a client earlier this morning before this call, and he's a year plus out of a really bad breakup, and we've met quite a few times since then. He's good. And he's kind of like, I'm there. Like, it's not there. We're not talking about it anymore. It just takes time sometimes. But looking back on this last year, he's got a new exercise routine. He's never been in better shape. He's never been doing better in university. He's talking to multiple women. He's working out as a boxer 4 times a week. He's doing all kinds of things. And his life's actually really improved. So like I said, you connect the dots later on, but you look at it and you go, a lot of times these moments when you get fired from a job or you lose a loved one, they're crossroads. They're not ideal. They're not planned. But when they happen, it's an opportunity for you to take new inventory on your life. When you take that new inventory on your life and you look at it from a new perspective, rather than I just lost someone or I'm really heartbroken about this breakup, there's time for that. And that's something that you should honor. But at the same time, you still got to go look in the mirror and deal with yourself as an individual. And now you can make some new choices. Because it's a resurrection, as they say in the hero's journey. You're going from feeling this complete loss, this sadness, to at some point, am I going to accept this for the rest of my life, or am I going to get off the mat and get back on deck? It's a big step, folks. Rob IS says, probably best to make sure it's a legit psychic. What an interesting way to put it, because I don't know if, psychic can prove what they're saying is true. And a lot of psychics that are legit actually will say, well, I'm just going to see what I see and feel what I feel, and I'll let you know if anything, they're not guaranteeing anything. And some things that they say might not resonate for a year. Have you ever had that where you had really good advice or someone told you something and it doesn't resonate for a year, 2 years, 3 years? Quite possible. So I would say that going back to this, there's good psychics, bad psychics. So if you get a bad one, don't complain or anything like that. Or if it doesn't resonate with you, or they're giving you information that you immediately feel like is off, are you rejecting things they are saying? How did you find them? Does their info resonate with you? What's your intuition say? What do you want to believe? That's probably one of the biggest ones, right? Because if you go in with an expectation, you're probably going to knock down whatever they're saying to you if it's not lining up with what you want. Okay. And if you're seeing multiple psychics with the same questions, well, then you're just looking to get a new answer to a question you already know the answer to, but you don't like it. Right. Now, being a coach for you, some people will want to book multiple sessions with multiple coaches to tell the story and see, well, is there a different strategy or is there something I didn't see here? I think that's okay, like I've said before, but long term, it usually spins people into directions of where's the right answer and the right move. When in reality, if some of these people are honest with themselves, the right move is just to move on. It's just that you're hurt so bad you don't want to deal with that rehabilitation, and it's tough. It's really tough for some people. All right, folks, I just want to come on brief for that today. We just had a few on deck. Rob IS, you are always appreciated. I know that you have a soft spot for psychics also. I believe have you been to one before? Skinner, have you been to one before? I've talked about it before, my own experiences with them, and I think there's a place for it. You just don't want to get obsessed with it or depend on that. And I would say really honor your own intuition and how well you know that person if you're being honest with yourself and knowing the situation. So I hope that helps you out there. If you want to go to writemac.com to book a live coaching session and to get a little deeper on things, that's available. If you wanted to send in your story, go to writemac.com, and sometimes I will unpack that in a YouTube video just like this. Otherwise, have a good day.